Okay, so welcome back to this final part of my essentials for virtual GPUs. What we're going to be covering in this one is my top 15 tips during a POC or deployment to help you smooth the way with implementing virtual GPU technology. So let's start with my first tip. My first tip is around getting the installation order right. So first of all, make sure that you do your research to make sure that the hardware you're using and the software that you're installing on top of that is a supported configuration by NVIDIA. Of course, all the links that I'm going to be presenting in this webinar will be available below as well in the description field. Now, the next stage is to build your hypervisor, whether it's VMware, KVM, whatever, get your hypervisor up and running. That's the second stage. Okay, so the next thing to do is to register for an evaluation on the NVIDIA website. With this, you'll get access to all of the virtual GPU software bundles for your server, for your virtual desktops, and also for your licensing as well. After that, before you even start playing with virtual GPU, what I'd recommend is that you install the NVIDIA license server. This can sit on a Linux machine or a Windows machine, and it will allow you to check licenses out to make sure that you get all the correct performance from your virtual machines. So if your server doesn't have a GPU card installed in already, now would be a really good time to put that GPU in. Make sure it's got power to it, make sure it's installed correctly. The next thing to do would be to boot your hypervisor and install the GPU manager component onto your hypervisor. This, of course, you downloaded in step 3 when you downloaded your software bundle. So with your hypervisor up and running, the next thing to do is to prepare your base virtual machine image without a GPU and configure RDP access. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that's important in a few slides' time. I would also recommend at this point that you run Windows Update as well and get that virtual machine installed with the hypervisor tools, the standard hypervisor tools that come with VMware or Citrix, etc. Once you have a virtual machine configured and you can access it remotely, the next thing to do would be to configure your VDI desktop with a vGPU profile and actually boot that virtual machine up. At this stage, the virtual GPU won't be active. The next thing you need to do is install the NVIDIA device drivers into that virtual machine, the standard Windows device drivers that came with the bundle you downloaded earlier. Also, you'll have to tell the driver where to look for a license. So you'll configure the license server details within the NVIDIA control panel within the virtual machine. And finally, you can reboot that workstation and virtual GPU will be up and running. Connect to it over RDP and continue your configuration. So if you have to install a virtual desktop agent for Citrix or Horizon, now would be the time to do that. So my second tip is how to get a virtual GPU license. And as you can see on the link that I provided here, we've actually given you access to 128 licenses for a 90-day trial period. If you're a partner and you're doing this on behalf of a customer, just be aware that you probably want the customer to apply for the evaluation instead of yourself, so that further down the line, if this deployment becomes a production environment, the license server and the portal will be all registered to the correct entity instead of being registered to yourself as a partner. So my next tip is downloading the drivers. Now, if you're a techie and you download drivers a lot, your instinct is probably to go to nvidia.com, click on the drivers section and download the drivers from there. Please refrain from doing this. Those drivers that we post directly on the website are for Tesla cards or for Quadro workstation cards. They won't work with virtual GPU. Go to your GPU portal that you registered with your evaluation and go to the software downloads from there. That's where you can find the drivers for your hypervisor and for your virtual machines, not the standard NVIDIA website. Tip 4, and really I've left this in here for people who are using virtual GPU older than version 9, but make sure that error correcting memory is turned off on your GPU. This is something that's typically used for HPC or deep learning environments, and previous to version 9 of virtual GPU could actually cause you some problems. If you have problems with virtual machines not loading, that kind of thing, it's very simple to go into your hypervisor, type a quick NVIDIA SMI command and disable ECC. And of course you need to reboot your server after you've done that. So my next tip is around servers that have more than 1 terabyte of RAM in them. With Maxwell generation cards, and for all intents and purposes, we're really talking about the M10 card now. there is an issue with addressing memory in the server over 1 terabyte. So check out the advice, both for XenServer and vSphere here. The sort of symptoms you'll see if it's having problems with more than 1 terabyte is that VMs might crash intermittently, that kind of thing. Again, as I say, only relevant now to M10 cards, but as we still recommend M10 for high density knowledge worker environments, this is still a very good tip to remember. So my next tip is around the NVIDIA vGPU license server. And I definitely recommend you go ahead and check out my video on how to do this. There are a lot of steps to the installation process and you need to make sure you get them all correct. So please go and check out my video on YouTube. This will be a great way of making sure that you don't miss a step. Okay, so this next tip is for VMware users out there. First of all, just remember that in order to manage virtual GPU, you're going to need vCenter to do this. And vCenter only comes with the Enterprise Plus edition of VMware. So just bear that in mind. The second thing, and I see this quite a lot, is that when people are first installing the server, they will forget to change the graphics mode to shared direct. Okay, the default graphics mode is shared. So make sure that you go to the screen grab that you see below there and change that to shared direct if you're using virtual GPU. You can leave it at shared if you're using something like VSGA, or if you're using GPU pass-through. But for vGPU, we need to have shared direct. And the third tip there is really around migration, live migration of virtual GPU enabled desktops on that hypervisor. Just make sure that you set this particular hot migrate setting here for your cluster. Now also, obviously there's XenServer users out there, and I just wanted to make you aware in the 8th tip here that XenServer has a few issues around GPU performance in versions greater than 7.1 and lower than version 8. Okay, so these are well documented, as you can see from the links here, but what I definitely recommend is you go to the latest version of XenServer, or Citrix Hypervisor as it's now known. That's version 8.1 at the time of this video, and you can avoid any performance issues within your virtual machines once you have a virtual GPU installed. So when you install the drivers into your virtual machines, just make sure that those virtual machine drivers are the same revision as the GPU manager that you installed on the hypervisor itself. So we do have some latitude here. So optimally, you would want to install the same version of GPU manager and Windows driver to make sure that they're a matched pair. We do support a little bit of mixing within the same driver branch. So for instance, you could upgrade the hypervisor driver to the latest edition, but you might have images that are using a slightly older version, as you can see here. What we definitely don't support is for the GPU manager to be one supported branch and the Windows driver to be on a different branch altogether. Okay, so just avoid doing that. If you do find yourself in the situation where you have mismatched server and workstation drivers, you won't get GPU acceleration. Now, another question I get asked a lot is, can I mix and match GPU profiles on the same card? And the answer to that is generally no, and I'll tell you why. So if we look at these two examples here, we have a Tesla T4 card and an RTX 6000 card. So once you install your first profile on that GPU, you'll now be locked to using that individual profile. If you install, for instance, a T4 4B profile onto the T4 on the left there, then you'll need to make sure that all the profiles subsequently are also 4B. You can't load a 2B profile on there. If you have an RTX 6000, it's pretty much the same story. If you have a 4Q profile running or a couple of 4Q profiles running on there, you will only be able to launch additional 4Q profiles on there. You couldn't go to a different type of license like a 4B profile, even if it does have the same frame buffer size. You can only change the GPU profile type once you've cleared down the card. So really the only exception to this rule is the Tesla M10 card, and the reason it's an exception is because it has 4 GPUs, so we can mix and match profiles on each individual GPU, as you can see there. We're running 2Q profiles on one, 4Q on another, we're launching some B profiles on the second GPU there, and we could have a XenApp server on the 4th GPU there running with a full 8 gig profile. But generally speaking, the rules are only the same profiles on each GPU card. So my 11th tip here really is around the virtual machine console for management purposes. One of the things you'll notice is once you install the GPU drivers into the virtual machine, you'll no longer be able to get access to the virtual machine's console from vCenter. This is behaving as expected, okay? The NVIDIA GPU is now acting as the display device, so you need a remoting protocol in order to access that GPU. This is why I recommended that you install RDP before you install the NVIDIA driver, just to make sure that you can get access to that console. If you do this and you haven't installed RDP, no problem. Just go ahead, uninstall the GPU from that VM again, reboot it and enable RDP. Now our 12th tip is around the DCH driver that gets delivered from Windows Update. Just be aware that this might be an issue to you because Virtual GPU does not work with the DCH driver. As long as you follow the right process for installing your GPU driver, you should never get into this issue. Really, this is only going to be a problem if you run Windows Update in between plugging in the GPU to a virtual machine and installing the Virtual GPU driver into it. Because if there's no driver installed in the virtual machine and it sees an NVIDIA card in there, during a Windows Update session, it'll actually grab the DCH driver from Microsoft's website. And you'll be in a position where Virtual GPU isn't going to work. So just be aware of that. Make sure that after you plug the card into the virtual machine that you're building, install the driver straight away before running Windows Update. So this next tip isn't really a single tip, it's more of a group of tips to help you with GPU licensing. So just to go through the process of what a GPU-enabled desktop does when it boots up. So say you've got a license server and there's 5 licenses available on that license server initially. When you start a virtual machine, the first thing that will happen is a license will get checked out when that driver loads. And a couple of files will get copied to the local drive of that virtual machine. We call that the trusted store. It doesn't matter whether a user is logged into this virtual machine or not. The virtual machine consumes a license when it's turned on. Once that virtual machine shuts down, the license is released. So we now have 5 licenses left once more in our license server pool. But one thing to bear in mind is those trusted store files don't get released when the virtual machine shuts down. So once the virtual machine is turned off, that trusted store still remains on that. So here's the issue. If you now use that virtual machine you've built as a golden image to clone multiple virtual machines from, you will end up replicating those trusted store files to every virtual machine that you clone from that image. This doesn't always cause a problem, but it has been known in the past to create licensing issues within a cloned environment. So the first way to get around this, and probably our preferred method, is just to delete the trusted store before you seal that image for cloning. It's very simple to do. All you do is delete the files in the directory that I've highlighted below. The other way of doing it, which is slightly more involved but actually gives you a bit more flexibility, is to not only delete the trusted store but also delete the IP address details that you entered for the NVIDIA license server before you seal that image, and then inject those license server details during the virtual machine boot using something like group policy or a reg file. And I've just called out an example there of the registry settings that you need to set. It's all documented, so if you need further information, please go to the link down the bottom. So, just to finish off our little section about licensing server, I just want to point out what happens to a virtual machine if the license server becomes unavailable. So, if a virtual machine loses connection to the license server during operation, there is a grace period. This grace period is typically 24 hours since it last checked for a license. After that period is finished, the desktop is limited to 3 frames a second. If the profile has a Quadro profile associated with it and it supports CUDA, CUDA will then be disabled. We also limit the number of screens that can be used to 1 display head without a license too. And also some GPU resource channels are limited, which may prevent some applications from running correctly. If a virtual machine comes up for the first time and can't find a license server, then it'll lock down straight away into this degraded state. Obviously, one of the best ways to avoid a loss of license server is to have a backup license server in place. So if the primary license server goes down, we've still got a backup. So a lot of people will come to me and say, I installed a GPU in my XenApp server, but I'm not getting any GPU acceleration. What could be the problem? So actually it turns out it's really just a single policy setting that needs to be set on an RDS or a XenApp server to allow you to use GPU acceleration. And I've called that out there. If you want further information on that, go to the Citrix website. They go into it in a bit more detail. So one of the most common things I see in VDI deployments is misconfiguration of remoting policies. And this leads me to my last tip in the series, which is around fuzzy fonts. So by default, both the BLAST and the HDX protocols use Chroma subsampling when sending data down to the endpoint. The problem with Chroma subsampling is a lot of the text that you see on the screen can look just a little bit fuzzy, especially if you're using bold colours such as blue on red or red on blue, that kind of thing. So there's a few ways around this. First of all, you can move to disable Chroma subsampling and go to YUV 444. This will make sure that all of the colour information gets sent down to that virtual desktop. The trade-off for that is 3 times as much bandwidth, so that's not always the right way to go. Another thing to try for this is to use the bitmap codec for your protocol instead of the video codec. This will mean that you don't get any GPU acceleration of that protocol, but it could be the best option for you. The final way, and probably the best way of doing this, is to use the adaptive policies from Citrix and VMware, such as the Citrix Use Video Codec for Actively Changing Regions policy. This will allow the video codec to only use Chroma subsampling for the area of the screen that's moving, say for instance a video, while leaving the non-moving parts of the screen encoded with a bitmap codec to make it look a lot more clear. Actively changing regions is really a great policy to get the best from both worlds. So that's my top 15 tips for virtual GPU deployments. I hope you found this series of 3 videos useful. Please come back to this channel again. I'm going to be adding more and more content as time goes by. Thank you.